Thank you very much, Mr. Hirlock, and I thank People Before Profit Solidarity for raising this motion. The Government notes this motion from People Before Profit Solidarity on the minimum wage. It expresses a concern regarding rising inflation and with the welfare of the low paid. These are two concerns that this Government shares. However, this motion ignores what this Government has done and is doing to address issues around cost of living and to ensure rising incomes and rising living standards for the low paid. Firstly, with regard to the problems of inflation and the cost of living increases, I know the pressures that people are feeling. The annual rate of consumer price inflation, as measured by the European Union's harmonised index of consumer prices, has picked up sharply in recent months, reaching a multi-decade high of 5.7% in the month of December. The Government recognises that those on lower incomes are being disproportionately affected. But it should be noted that the recent rise in inflation is primarily the result of global factors and consequently largely beyond the reach of government policy. These inflationary pressures are partly the result of temporary factors related to the pandemic, which are expected to fade over time. We need to be aware of the risk of higher inflation expectations feeding through to wage price spiral. This risk to the inflation outlook increases the longer this temporary period of high inflation lasts. The Government has already pursued a large range of measures to protect households from the rising cost of living. Budget 2022 contained a personal income tax package worth €520 million and a social welfare package of over €550 million. The fuel allowance was increased by €5 per week to compensate lower income households for the additional energy costs they are likely to incur. There were also increases in the allocation of early learning and care and school-aged childcare to ensure childcare prices do not rise. The Government has also approved an electricity costs emergency benefit scheme, payment of up to €100 to be made this year to an estimated of 2.1 million electricity account holders. In addition to these actions already taken, colleagues across Government, along with their officials, have been tasked with developing proposals for a package to help families with the cost of living, and my Government will finalise this package very shortly. Secondly, with regards to the incomes and living standards for the low paid, again what this Government has done and is doing to address the issues should be acknowledged. Central to this have been the increases to the minimum wage. Since its establishment in 2015, the Low Pay Commission has been responsible for making annual recommendations to Government on the appropriate rate of the national minimum wage. The national minimum wage seeks to find a balance between a fair and sustainable rate for low-paid workers and one that will not have significant negative consequences for employers and competitiveness. As it is legally enforceable, it provides protection for workers. The Low Pay Commission is made up of an equal number of employer representatives, employee representatives and independent members, which helps to provide a balanced view when determining an appropriate rate for national minimum wage. In addition, the establishing legislation requires that the Low Pay Commission to give consideration to a range of issues when arriving at a recommendation for the appropriate national minimum wage. These issues include the cost of living, competitiveness and the likely effect that any proposed recommendation will have on future levels of employment. When considering increases in the national minimum wage during a period of inflation, Government must be conscious of the need to avoid second-round effects or a wage price spiral. The Low Pay Commission is legislatively required to provide a recommendation to the Minister by the third week in July. Any recommended change in the minimum wage is then normally announced as part of the budget in October, coming into force the following January. The Low Pay Commission has made 6 recommendations on the national minimum wage since it was established, and the Government has accepted each of these recommendations. The national minimum wage has increased from €8.65 per hour to €10.50 per hour between 2016 and 2022, in line with the recommendations from the Low Pay Commission. The Government is supportive of the Low Pay Commission and the work it has carried out since its foundation and respects the independence of the Low Pay Commission. The Government is committed to protecting low-paid workers, many of whom have continued to work in sectors providing important services throughout the pandemic. It is estimated that at least 135,000 people saw an increase in their wages due to the last increase in the minimum wage in January, with many others on slightly higher pay levels also getting a knock-on increase. Today, Ireland has one of the highest minimum wages in the European Union. Recently released data from the Eurostat shows that as of the 1st of January 2022, 21 of the 27 EU member states have national minimum wages. In terms of gross monthly rates, Ireland has the second highest national minimum wage of these 21 member states. When adjusted for purchasing power standards, PPS, Ireland ranks as 6th. The share of workers on the minimum wage in Ireland has fallen consistently since the establishment of the Low Pay Commission. The share of workers on the minimum wage or less as a percentage of the total labour force has reduced from 9.3% in Q4 2016 to 6.8% in the fourth quarter of 2020. It should also be noted that Ireland has amongst the highest wages in the European Union. Median gross hourly earnings in Ireland were €17.97 in 2018, 36% above the EU 27 average of €13.18. And Ireland's personal taxation regime is viewed as being one of the most progressive in terms of income redistribution in both the European Union and the OECD. It is characterised by a large number of earners who are exempt from income tax, followed by a relatively steep climb from entry to the taxation net at an annual wage of circa €17,000 to entry to the top rate of taxation at earnings of €36,800, which is below the national average wage of €38,846. The Tax Strategy Group Papers 2021 showed that 989,000 earners, 36% of total, are exempt from income tax. This includes people on the national minimum wage and low pay. Ireland has a well-established system to set the minimum wage based around the Low Pay Commission. This system works well. Since its establishment, Low Pay Commission has delivered 6 consecutive annual increases in minimum wage, and the next recommendation on the national minimum wage is due to be received in July of this year. As well as considering the national minimum wage, the Low Pay Commission is also currently tasked with examining the issues of a living wage and a universal basic income pilot. Reports from the Low Pay Commission on both of these matters are due to be received within the first half of this year. The Government respects the Low Pay Commission and its independence. It supports the work it is currently doing on the living wage, UBI, and preparing for its July recommendations. I expect, as with all Low Pay Commission recommendations, their Government will indicate its planned approach following receipt of those recommendations. Thank you, Cearla.